Good Monday morning to you guys. Welcome to Fantasy Football Academy 2020. As always, I am the Dean, your host, and we're here with a very special mock draft Monday. Before we get things kicked off, we're going to kick it off a little special today. We're going to share a little something with you. Now, I've had this guy on before, but we're going to show you a little something for him. Give him a little love. Give you a little sneak peek. It's from my boy C Zone on YouTube. Look, go show him some love at CZONNE. Check him out, C Zone. All right, guys, I hope that gets y'all in the mood. We pumped up for Mock Draft Monday. That's right. It's another edition of Mock Draft Monday with the Dean on Fantasy Football Academy 2020. Hey, look, before we get into this, I sent out on Twitter that we're going to be talking about environmental drafting. Now, first of all, what is environmental drafting? You've heard me talk about the environment around players. Well, that starts with the coaching, okay? So certain coaches have different styles, different things that they lean on. Some are more pass happy, some are more run friendly. Some you run the spread. Other ones like McVay with the Rams, he is starting to run what they call a 12-man set, where they have two tight ends all on the field at all times. And back in the day, that used to mean straight run. Well, not anymore. That's changed. Things have evolved, okay? Football is an ever-evolving sport. It's not played like it used to be played. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys an equation. And, hey, it's the academy. That's what we do here. We give you guys equations to carry into your drafts, because if you haven't drafted already, and I hope you haven't without watching me, without leaving me some comments down the bottom. And look, I love the comments. I love the sharing down the bottom. Subscribe, like, and share for me. You can also follow me on Twitter at FantasyDean20 on Twitter. So hit me up with some questions there if you have any. And remember, my league of record this year, we will be publicly ripping each other and trash talking on Twitter and on YouTube, okay? So on the 8th of September, 2 days before the season kicks off, we will be doing our draft of record for our league of record here on Fantasy Football Academy, all right? So here's the equation that I want to give you guys. Now, you've heard me say before that talent plus opportunity is going to equal a good pick, okay? So if you have the talent plus you have the opportunity, that gives you your risk factor, okay? Well, I'm going to add a little something to that. Talent plus the opportunity plus the environment equals a great pick, okay? So you can have all the talent in the world. You can get all the opportunity in the world. Unless you have a good environment to support that, you're not really going to get a lot, okay? So what am I talking about? Here's what we're saying is that if you look at teams like the Colts, okay, and we'll just take them for an example. They have no changes in their coaching staff. The only change that they have coming is their quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Now, here's the plus, is that Phillip Rivers is a veteran quarterback. He's been around the league. Yes, he's only been with one team, so he's only had really one style of play, okay? Now, they know he's a vet. They know certain strengths that he has. They know he's getting older, so he's not going to be able to run like, let's say, that Jacoby Brissett, the former starting quarterback for the Colts, could. But what he can do is he can read better, and he loves to throw. This guy has been pass happy since day one, okay? So expect a lot more passing out of Indy. Then you move to teams like the Saints. The Saints probably have one of, if not the most cohesive coaching units, along with core players in the entire league. The only major offensive addition that they've done this year is add Emmanuel Sanders. Again, a veteran wide receiver coming into a system. He's just got to learn his part, okay? He doesn't have to learn everyone else's. He doesn't have to worry about that. And you don't have coaches that are coming in trying to change everything so everyone's on different pages. Everyone's on the same page. And I'm going to tell you right now, teams like that are going to be dangerous in this COVID season that we're getting ready to go into, okay? So what I'm going to do is we're going to break down what changes have happened before we get into our draft, okay? So starting with the AFC East, I'm going to name off the coaches that have changed, that have turned over, and we're going to look at what players that can affect the most. So starting off with the AFC East, we're going to make this real easy. The Bills, the Jets, and the Pats, all the same. There's no coaching changes there whatsoever, okay? So the Bills, it is what it is. The addition that they had there was Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs coming in, Josh Allen's second year in the system. Diggs is coming in. Now, they're probably going to try to limit Josh Allen's running because they went and got Diggs. But by doing that, you're taking away part of his game, okay? They're going to try to do the same thing in Baltimore, but I'm telling you right now, they know what they have in Baltimore. I would trust the Baltimore's coaching staff over the Bills' coaching staff without a shadow of a doubt, just for the simple fact that they've got Lamar Jackson, the most dynamic quarterback that we've seen in generations, okay? We haven't seen a guy run like this since Mike Vick. We haven't seen a guy with power like this since a young Ben Roethlisberger. This guy is built like a house, okay? This guy's built like a brick house. So he's going to run people over, and he's got that style of play. He likes to play like that, okay? You're not going to pull that out of him in one season. They might be able to rein him in a little bit, but it's not going to affect him the way it's going to affect Josh Allen. So then you've got the Jets. Look, I don't know what to make of Andy Dalton. I'm saying Andy Dalton, getting ahead of myself. Sam Darnold. I don't know what to make of Sam Darnold, okay? I don't know if he's going to take a step forward now, but all I do know is that Adam Gase is still the head coach, and anyone who's been around Adam Gase is just faltered. They've not been good. Le'Veon Bell's in the backfield. There's some guys who are softening their stance on Le'Veon Bell. I am not one of them. I am totally hands off of Le'Veon Bell. Look, this is not Pittsburgh Le'Veon Bell. This is New York Jets Le'Veon Bell. Everyone remembers when they were doing those specials on ESPN about how he's got this, unique style of running where he's got that little pause, he runs up, he can read stuff, and then he can break. Well, here's the thing. Pittsburgh knew how to block for that. The Jets don't. Okay, the Jets haven't learned that. It took Pittsburgh a minute for their linemen to get used to the way that Le'Veon runs. The Jets haven't done that, and I don't see the coaching staff making the adjustments for Le'Veon to be Le'Veon. Plus the fact he's getting older. I'm not buying him. As far as the Pats go, look, this is rebuild for the first time in 2 decades, okay? For the first time in 20 seasons, they don't have Tom Brady under center. They don't have their cornerstone. The building has been torn down. They lost Hightower and Chung among others on defense. So that defense, even last year, before they lost all of this stuff, started falling off at the end. So with these losses, with these minuses, look, you've got to step down your expectations on the Pats. Yes, it's Belichick. Yes, he's going to pull something out of his hat offensively. I don't know what they're going to do defensively, okay? And I don't know if they can hang with the Bills' defense. I know that the Bills' defense is going to be monstrous. Miami, they have a new DC, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. But they have a new DC, so we're going to see how that defense works out. Usually, defense is ahead of the offense, okay? And in a COVID season like we're going into, that's going to be really important because you're going to see defenses way ahead of the curve as opposed to the offense. Offenses is going to take about three or 4 weeks before you really see what these offenses are going to be. So don't jump the gun. If you draft some players a little higher and you're disappointed in weeks 1 and 2, calm down. It's not the end of the world. 1 or 2 losses is not going to ruin you. You can make it up. Okay, just stay the course. Remember, the talent will rise. Okay, talent will rise to the top, and it will carry you. So just make sure that you draft smart and trust your gut. Okay, so what's going on in Miami? Here's the thing. New head coach, new OC, new DC. Okay, that's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. So they basically ripped out their entire coaching staff and replaced it with new guys. Brian Flores is the new head coach. Chan Gailey is new offensive coordinator. Now, that bodes well for Fitz, and it bodes well for Tua. He can groom Tua, and he can have a Fitz-friendly offense put into place that plays to Ryan Fitzpatrick's strengths as opposed to his weaknesses. You're not going to ask him to do things that he's not comfortable doing. So, boost my confidence. When I was reading this, it boosts my confidence in drafting Devontae Parker. Okay. Now, again, I'm hands off for the running backs just because there are way too many. Okay. Also, up in New England, you might have seen the signing of Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller basically signed with the Pats, and they walked him over to the PUP list. Okay. So he's put on the physically unable to perform list. And just a little side note, I want to share something with you. This is probably one of the more inspiring scenes of the NFL. I'll pull this up real quick for you guys. And you guys know that I'm a Washington diehard fan from jump. I've been there through the good, through the bad. And yes, I basically grew up with the Redskins in Maryland. We're going to show you guys this real quick. Guys, I don't care who you are. If this doesn't warm your heart to see this man, Alex Smith, back out on the field at Washington's practice, number 11, chucking the ball around. Look, that's just a beautiful ball, okay? And yeah, I know it's preseason, and I know it's, training camp. But look, just to see him out there like that just warms the heart, okay? I don't care who you are, even if you're a Dallas fan, okay? So just wanted to share that with you guys. I saw it out on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at FantasyDean20. And, ask me anything you want. Hit me up. So we're going to the AFC North now. Yeah, guys, look, like I said, with Miami, with all those changes, I'm loving the Chan Gailey. I'm loving the fact that I can have confidence in drafting Devontae Parker, maybe a little higher than most of your friends would, because they're just seeing Miami, and Miami's had a bad taste in your mouth for a long time if you're a fantasy player, with the exception of maybe Fitz on a streaming option. But Devontae Parker can be yours for a pretty good price and give you good value later in the draft. Okay, so AFC North. Again, we're making this really easy for you guys. Ravens, Cincy, and Pittsburgh, no changes. So what does that mean? That means that Cincinnati, having the number 1 pick, they're going to be sorry. They're going to suck. They're going to be in the bottom, okay? And with this new offense and with the talent that Cleveland has, I don't know if I see Cincinnati getting, finishing worse than the bottom, just because I don't believe in their defense. Yes, they have Joe Burrow. Yes, they have AJ Green. Yes, they have Joe Mixon. But bringing that all together, we saw what a year one means when you have guys like tried to be put together, especially like Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland tried to put Odell and Jarvis and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Baker Mayfield, and everybody was losing their mind last year on the Browns, including myself. Okay, I was a big believer. I loved the fact that Odell was getting a change of scenery, that he was getting a new quarterback, that I loved Baker coming out of college. And I love the attitude and the bravado and all this stuff. And then he got to Cleveland. And everything just went to hell in a handbasket. So hopefully with this new season, with Stefanski coming in, and they have a new OC, they have a new defensive coordinator, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But like I said, with Cincinnati, you got a rookie quarterback. So you're going to see a lot of 8 in the box. You're going to see a lot of stacked boxes against the run, and they're going to try to make him beat them. Okay, now, does he have the weapons? Yes. Can he make that move to the NFL? A lot of people think he can. Again, I was born in Springfield, Missouri, so you got to show me. Okay, I'm not gonna blow a pick on Joe Burrow anytime soon. Now, I do like A.J. Green, because if Joe Burrow has any kind of success in Cincy, it's going to be through A.J. Green, okay? Joe Mixon, look, he's not worth the price. I like Joe Mixon as a fantasy running back, but not at the end of the first round, beginning of the second. If he falls to the third, great, but he's not going to. Somebody's going to pick him up, and somebody's going to believe, okay? Like I said before with Professor Chet, these mock drafts that you guys are going to see on other shows, they are experts against experts. That's what they're drafting for. When these guys draft, they draft based upon who they draft with, okay? They draft with the guys who've been doing this for years and years and maybe even decades, okay? I myself, I got 25 years in, okay? So I'm trying to impart some of my knowledge onto you guys. Hopefully it comes through, and I'm hoping that it helps, okay? But like I said, the Ravens, Cincy, and Pittsburgh, there's no environmental changes in the coaching staff, okay? It's all player-related. The Ravens, the only player that they really added was J.K. Dobbins at running back. That's trying to take some of the pressure off of Lamar, okay? So by taking some of that pressure off of Lamar, they're going to try to concentrate a little more on his throwing, which means that unless they bring in a veteran wide receiver like AB, which I've heard it's either Baltimore or Seattle for AB, you can look at Hollywood Brown being the number one wide receiver, and Mark Andrews basically being the second. Okay, he's going to be one of those tight end receiver type guys, a la the George Kittle, Travis Kelce mold. That's how they're going to be using him. They let Hayden Hurst walk, and they sent him down to Atlanta to replace Austin Hooper, which I love that situation for Hurst. I think that Hurst can really be something special down in Atlanta, especially with all those vacated targets. It's going to take him a little bit of time, especially with no preseason, to get the trust of Matt Ryan. But look, those targets got to go somewhere, and that's why I'm so high on Calvin Ridley this year, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. As far as the Browns go, like I said, Kevin Stefanski, if you've heard that name before, it's because of Minnesota Vikings. Now, here's the thing, is that the Vikings were probably the lowest passing attempt team in the league, okay? Now, why is that? Is it because they didn't have a good quarterback? No, they got Kirk Cousins, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe they didn't have good receivers. Really? They had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, okay? Basically, one of the more potent 1-2 punches, wide receiver-wise, in the NFL. Maybe they had a bad defense. Nope. Their defense was phenomenal. Okay, now, since last year, they've lost some pieces on their defense, which means that their defense won't be as good, which means that they're probably going to be losing, which means that they're going to be passing the ball a little more. Also, Gary Kubiak is now the OC in Minnesota. So with Stefanski coming in, who is a very run-heavy coach, all this talk about Kareem Hunt taking this huge leap because he's going to be used in the slot, and they're going to use him as this, and they're going to use him as that. Okay, great. You had Dalvin Cook in Minnesota last year that really didn't get that many touches when they're involved as heavily in the pass game. Doesn't mean he can't catch now. Kyle Rudolph, we know he's a good pass-catching tight end. Where'd he go last year? Disappeared because of the coach. Okay, the OC was just so hands-off on passing. It wasn't even funny. He was built on the run. Who's running back in Cleveland? That's right, Nick Chubb. Look, I'm telling you, Nick Chubb's ADP, his average draft position, has been falling a little bit with all this talk about Kareem Hunt. So everybody's all hyped up about Kareem Hunt. Great, let him be hyped up. Go out and get you some Nick Chubb. See what a Kevin Stefanski run offense looks like for Nick Chubb this year. You think he did good last year with having Kareem Hunt out for 8 games? See what he's like when he's the focal point and they're using the run to set up the pass. Okay, look, I'm telling you, it's old school thought, but it works. Okay. Now, not only that, their DC came from San Fran. That's right. The runner-up in the Super Bowl, sorry, Jet, San Francisco 49ers lost their defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, to Cleveland. So, Joe Woods, former Niners, now in Cleveland, going to straighten up that defense and get them going right. Do they have the talent? Yeah, I think they do. So, if they got a better defense, and they might actually be leading in some games, what you going to do when you get a lead? That's right, run the ball. Who's the main guy again? That's right, Nick Chubb. So, moving on to the AFC South. AFC South. Now, we got a little turnover here. There's no change with the Colts. We're getting a new defensive coordinator for the Titans. Not really too worried about that. There's a new defensive coordinator with Houston, Anthony Weaver. The biggest fantasy-related coaching change for the AFC South is the Jags. They get former head coach of Washington's football team, and yes, I hate that name, the OC, Jay Gruden, okay? Now, Jay Gruden brought with him Chris Thompson, former running back of Washington. Now, what does that mean? That means that Leonard Fournette is going to get scripted out of certain areas of the game, okay? He's not been really used in passing a lot. Chris Thompson is that pass-catching back. So on third down, look for Chris Thompson to step in when they want to pass the ball, okay? First, second down, Fournette, great. Chris Thompson, third down, little screen pass, let him scamper off, okay? Look, they don't want to pay Fournette. Fournette went out and publicly called for Cam Newton to come to Jacksonville. Did not sit too well with his boss. So they're not – just look for Leonard Fournette to be playing somewhere else in 2021, okay? Whether they trade him or whether they just let him walk, don't know. But a lot of people are saying that the Jags are going to have the number 1 overall pick next year, okay? AFC West, again, real easy. The AFC really doesn't have a lot of coaching turnover, okay? So when you look at the landscape of what the AFC is, it's pretty much going to fall into place like it did as far as the top goes, the same way that it did last year. With KC, the Chargers, and the Raiders in the AFC West, there is no coaching changes whatsoever. So what does that mean? That means that KC The only thing they added was probably one of the more electrifying players in Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back. And with Damon Williams opting out, his ADP has been skyrocketing even more. He's being put up there ahead of Dalvin Cook. That's right, a rookie, the first rookie off the board, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, okay? The Chargers quarterback situation is going to be a nightmare for fantasy players, okay? What does that mean? That means that the running game, Austin Ekeler, is going to shine yet again. Mark my words. Don't be afraid to draft Austin Ekeler in your drafts. You're going to get a great fantasy running back, okay? Because whether it's Tyrod Taylor, who is basically Alex Smith 2.0, Mr. Game Manager, or whether it's going to be Justin Herbert, who rookie, and what is the best confidence builder for a rookie quarterback is those little dump passes to a sure-handed running back who loves to catch the ball out of the backfield, just like he did last year with Phillip Rivers. So I don't see a downside to a bad quarterback situation for Austin Ekeler. Okay. Can Tyrod throw? Yes. Can Justin Herbert throw? Yes. Both of these guys can get it out. And if you're going to, like I said to Chet, gun to my head, if you had to pick a wide receiver from the Chargers, I'm taking Mike Williams over Keenan Allen any day of the week, twice on Sunday. The Raiders, no coaching change. What did they do? They went out and they added Henry Ruggs, and they added another wide receiver in the draft. Okay, so you got 2 wide receivers. What does that mean? That means that all those targets to Darren Waller, the Walrus, they got to go somewhere. They've got to be divvied up somewhere. So what does that mean? That means that all these people talking hype about Darren Waller aren't looking at the environmental changes. There's the word again, environmental changes around the player. They're looking at the stats, and I've said it before, and I'm going to give you one more equation to take into your draft, is that environment equals stats. Stats do not equal the environment, okay? You cannot have great stats without having a great environment, okay? If you've got horrible stats, it's because you had a horrible environment. You had a bad O-line to block for your running back. That's why your running back didn't get that many yards. You had a horrible quarterback play. That's why your wide receiver isn't catching the ball, because they can't get it to him, okay? Last year in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield was being asked to throw passes that he should not have been asked to throw, or he was trying to force it into Odell because you're trying to manufacture touches for him, okay? You can't do that. Again, football is a very flow sport, okay? It's got to flow. You got to feel it. You got to be able to change with it. Same thing with the fantasy football draft. Remember, let the draft come to you, okay? Don't try to go out and make it something that it's not going to be, because you're going to get messed up at the end. You're going to look at your team at the end of the draft. You're going to look at it and go, I really drafted that team. How did I do that? How did I let this player get by me in the 5th? How did I let that player get by me in the 8th? When you go back and you look, I want you to be happy with your team, regardless of whether or not you got the player that you were targeting originally, okay? I want you to be able to look back and go, I made a good choice there, because you're looking at the environment, okay? So the only change in the AFC West, offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur goes to Denver, okay? And we might remember Pat Shurmur, former head coach of the New York Giants. Now, here's an interesting tidbit coming out of Denver. Anybody who's targeting Melvin Gordon, don't do it. Headline came out on ESPN that Melvin Gordon is having trouble adjusting to the altitude in Denver. What does that mean for a running back? He's winded. That means unless it's an away game, you're not going to get much out of Melvin Gordon. Now, when he has that revenge game with the Chargers, back in LA, that might be a little something. That might be something fun to stream, just from the revenge factor. And even then, I would just take that on a DFS, on daily fantasy sports. Okay, so I'm not, like I said, I'm hands off of any Denver running back. I'm loving me some Noah Fant for tight end late in the draft. If you're gonna wait on tight end, I love that, because regardless of whether or not Drew Lock steps up and makes that second year progression, he's still a favorite target. Okay. Yes, you have Jerry Jeudy. Yes, you have Cortland Sutton, but Noah Fant has been his favorite target. He's already got that camaraderie, that chemistry. Okay. So that's your AFC. Now we get into the NFC. And let me tell you something. The NFC is a wreck when it comes to coaching changes, okay? There is so much turmoil in the NFC, it's not even funny. There are very few teams who have been unaffected by coaching changes. We're going to start with the most coaching changes in the NFL. Forget AFC, forget NFC. The entire NFL put together doesn't have as much coaching changes as my guys over on the NFC East. NFC East, we're going to start with Dallas. Head coach, Mike McCarthy. Defensive coordinator, Mike Nolan. Special teams coach, John Fassel. Now, the only guy is Kellen Moore, the OC, who made it through the purge in Dallas, okay? They got rid of everybody else. The only one that they have is the OC. Now, that does bode well for Zeke and Amari and Dak to be good fantasy options, okay? But with all the off-field issues that Dak has with the contract, you don't think that's going to play in his head? Of course it is. Amari got paid. Zeke got paid. They added CeeDee Lamb. So where's all the targets to their first-round draft pick? Where's that coming from? Okay? It's got to come somewhere. So Amari, Michael Gallup, guess what? You guys are getting chopped down a little bit. So don't be as high on these Dallas receivers as you might want to be. Now, Zeke, of course, top 3. Okay. Saquon, CMC, Zeke, I'm cool. Okay. If you want to go after Dak in the 5th, above Russell Wilson, I get it. Dak has potential for a top 3 finish in fantasy football. Okay. I'm just not picking him just because I can't root for the Cowboys. I can't. I think my mom would disown me. So that's the environmental change going on in Dallas. Going on in New York, we have Joe Judge. Who? That's right. Joe Judge. Now, Joe Judge is coming. No head coaching experience whatsoever. And let me just fact check this real quick before I misspeak. But let's go on. We're going to go Jason Garrett as the offense coordinator for the Giants. And we all know where Jason Garrett came from, Dallas. Okay, so he's used to working with talent. He's got Saquon, which is basically Zeke. I'm not going to say that Daniel Jones is Dak, but he's a younger version. I think that the coaching staff, the organization as a whole, has confidence in Daniel Jones. That's why they took him first. And let's go here. Here we go. Yeah, first-time head coach for Joe Judge. So, this is him getting his feet wet. And then you've got Jason Garrett sitting behind him as a seasoned head coach. I'm not going to say a good head coach because basically Dallas didn't win a whole lot with him. They were basically the epitome of mediocrity in the NFC East. They would finish either 8-8 or 7-9 or 9-7 or somewhere around that range. They really underperformed, and that's why he's sitting in the OC booth instead of down on the sidelines wearing the big headset. They also have a new defensive coordinator in Patrick Graham. So they have the talent, but coming together as a cohesive coaching unit, we're going to see what Joe Judge does for this, okay? He's coming from New England. He was a special teams coordinator, and we don't know what we're going to see with that. So there's going to be a whole lot of turmoil there. Again, Saquon, he's safe. I have no problem with that. Daniel Jones could be a breakout star with having Jason Garrett there, knowing and with some of that weight of a head coach being taken off of him where he can concentrate on the offensive calls only. He doesn't have to worry about delegating or anything else like that. I believe that he can be one of those Norv Turner types, ironically, former offensive coordinator for the Cowboys turned head coach for the Redskins. I think that he can be a better offensive coordinator than he was a head coach. So look for that. Now we get to Philly. Philly's got a little weird here. They don't really have an offensive coordinator. Here is what they have. They have what is called a pass game coordinator, a run game coordinator, and then a senior offensive assistant. Okay? Yeah, that's a lot of people with their hands in the cookie jar on the offense. Okay, so you got Miles Sanders, who they want to do a lot with. Doug Peterson, who's a head coach there. We're going to see what he thinks about Miles Sanders. We know that they want to lean on him, and they've been calling him a workhorse in every down, heavy workload back. There's been a lot of good coach speak coming out of Philly, but we're going to see what it's going to actually be like. There's Press Taylor, who's the pass game coordinator, Jeff Stoughton as the run game coordinator, and then Rick Scangarillo, I believe I'm saying that right, as the senior offensive assistant. So we're going to see how all of that works out. Now to my team. Hold on a second, because this is going to take a second. By the way, Love Monster, hashtag not a sponsor of the show. Would love them. So if you're watching, I'm taking applications, guys. So head coach Ron Rivera. Now, here's the interesting thing about this group of coaching is that you have probably the best grouping that you can have for a coaching. And no, I'm not saying that just because it's Washington. I know when you hear this stuff come out of my mouth, you think that I'm spewing garbage onto anyone else in the NFC East, and then it's all rainbows and unicorns and glitter flying out of my mouth about Washington. But hear me out. Ron Rivera, 2-time Coach of the Year in Carolina, okay, brings his offensive coordinator, Scott Turner. So what does that mean off the bat? That means that the head coach and the OC are on the same page. They're coming from the same place. So there's no miscommunication. There's no getting to know each other. There's no honeymoon period. These guys are already married. They already know each other. They know each other's likes, dislikes, and tendencies. So there's a lot less confusion when it goes to the offense. Ron Rivera is as old school as you can get, okay? With Mike McCarthy in Dallas, Mike McCarthy took a year off to redesign himself because he couldn't keep up with the way that the NFL is running, okay? So basically, if anybody saw Any Given Sunday with Pacino, I love Pacino in that movie, but the way that they portray him is he's an old school coach and he's falling behind in the times and things like that. Well, that was basically Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy fell behind in the times. That's how he got out of Green Bay. They brought in a younger, newer, fresher look coach, that type of thing for Green Bay. We saw that led them to a 13-3 record last year. Now, Mike McCarthy's taken over an 8-8 stagnant Dallas team, and we don't know what we're going to get out of that. Basically, my personal opinion, the only reason he got the job is because he was the only yes man that Jerry Jones could find. Because trust me, if Jerry Jones could play quarterback for the Cowboys, he would. He would be owner, coach, GM, OC, and quarterback if he could. Okay, that's how big this guy's head is. Now, Ron Rivera, old school coach, likes he can delegate. Okay, Scott Turner, his offensive coordinator coming from Carolina. They had some problems in Carolina last year, but they had a very potent running game on the back of a great running back in CMC. We switch over to Washington. Washington has a truckload of running backs, even with the dismissal of Darius Geis for domestic violence charges, which, as I put it on my Twitter account, I applaud Washington for the action that was decisive and immediate once that they got the news about his arrest. Okay. Love that. I love the fact that they took that kind of stance. I wish more sports teams, not just NFL, but more sports teams would take a hardcore approach to that kind of violence coming from their athletes. Okay. But we switch over to the defensive side of the ball. Who is it other than legendary Jack Del Rio? Yes, the man was awesome on the field when he was playing. He has a great defensive mind. We saw him as coach in what was then Oakland with the Raiders, and didn't really work out, but it's the Raiders. I mean, who works out with the Raiders? Okay. So having Ron Rivera and Scott Turner already know each other, Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera basically cut from the same cloth. I think this coaching staff is put together probably as good as you can get for a replacement coaching staff, okay? Now, we go into the NFC North. With the Packers, no change. Literally, no change. So the only thing with the Packers that they changed, they added a quarterback. Don't know why. I do, but we're not going to dive into that. And a running back. Now, A.J. Dillon, if you look, go on my Twitter account and you'll see the retweet that it did from the Fantasy Hitman at FF Hitman, Andy Holloway from the Fantasy Footballers, who I love. Much love to you guys. He put out a split screen of the Hulk and A.J. Dillon. Look, if there is any player in the NFL that I've seen that looks like the Hulk, it's A.J. Dillon. I tweeted out as a joke that you can't see Aaron Jones because he's standing in front of A.J. Dillon, okay? That's how big this guy is. This guy is huge. His legs are monstrous. They talked about Saquon when he came in having tree trunks for legs. If he's got tree trunks, this guy has redwoods as thighs, okay? He's just massive. Now, if you think that they're not going to use that power, I don't know what you've been watching, but whenever you have a running back that looks like that, you're going to use him a lot. So, Aaron Jones, watch out. Which means that the only thing I'm targeting in Green Bay is probably Davante Adams. So, but yeah, no coaching change. That environment has not changed at all. Okay. Now we have in Chicago, we have a pass game coordinator in Dave Ragone. It's Ragone. And then Bill Lazor is the offensive coordinator. So we have a new offensive coordinator in Chicago. Hopefully that means good things for Mitch Trubisky, even if Trubisky's on the downward, which I, in my bold predictions, projected him being replaced by Nick Foles by week 4. I think that the Mitch Trubisky experiment is over. I don't see it coming to fruition. Even if it does, I believe that Allen Robinson and David Montgomery are both safe. I think that the head coach in Chicago is on the hot seat. Last year, Matt Nagy, he wanted to to try to get cute and hand the ball off to Tariq Cohen in opportunities where it should have been David Montgomery. Okay. They did not spend as high of a draft pick on David Montgomery as they did and not use him. Okay. So look for that to change. In Detroit, defensive coordinator, special teams coach, not a whole lot going on there. It's going to take Detroit a little bit of time to get their defense under control. What does that mean? That means that Matt Stafford is still going to be forced to throw the ball all over the place, which means that Kenny Golladay is a go-to guy. It means that Marvin Jones is still going to be scoring touchdowns. It means that Kerryon Johnson is probably going to be, relegated to a lot lower on the depth chart because they have Swift that they drafted, but the offensive line is not set up for Swift to even see what his potential could be. Okay. They're going to have to make improvements on that. We talked a little bit about the Vikings earlier. We're going to talk about them now. Defensive coordinator, actually co-coordinators, Andre Patterson and Adam Zimmer. Whenever you have two defensive or two coaches in anywhere, you have one too many. Okay. Unless these guys are on the same page, the defense is not gonna mesh. So what does that mean? That means that you have a new offensive coordinator in Gary Kubiak, only new by title. Okay. Last year, he was there with Stefanski. Stefanski was getting all the credit. Kubiak was in the background. Now Kubiak is up front making the calls, and look for them to open up Kirk Cousins a little more. Okay, they got Justin Jefferson. They went out and they drafted him from LSU. Phenomenal receiver. Okay, so look for them to use him. Okay, look for them to target him a lot, especially with him sliding into the Stephon Diggs role. With Adam Thielen there as the veteran. Now, NFC South, and then we're going to head to NFC West real quick. NFC South, look, Saints and Bucks, there's no change. The only change with the Falcons is the defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, and the Panthers have a plethora because everybody and their brother left aside from CMC. Defensive coordinator Phil Snow. OC is Joe Brady. Now you might remember Joe Brady's name being brought up during college football because he is the OC that put together LSU's offense last year. Now, Teddy Bridgewater being a little more mobile. I think he kind of fits the mold of Joe Burrow a little bit better with the way that they used CMC last year. Very college-esque with him being involved a lot in the passing game, run game. It was very balanced, but it was forced to be balanced, okay? Look for Curtis Samuel to step up in the wide receiver role for them. Now, Matt Rule, I don't know what to make of Matt Rule. He's coming from college. He used to be with Temple. Anywhere he's been, he's had success, but this is the NFL. His first flurry into here as a head coach. If I'm not mistaken, he was with New Orleans back in the day with Peyton a few years back before he stepped into head coach as college. So we'll see what that's going to bring. Look at the Panthers as being a little more up-tempo offense. So with that said, Teddy Bean might not be a bad streaming option. You might want to look at him, even if you want to take him as a backup quarterback later in the draft. He might be somebody that eventually could actually be in your starting lineup, and you drafted him as a backup. Like I drafted Lamar Jackson last year as a backup to Jared Goff because Goff's expectations were so great. And that's where I made my mistake, is thinking that. And here's the good thing I want you guys to think about real quick before we get into the NFC West is with thinking the environment. If you think stats first, stats take the past into consideration, trying to project the future, okay? I'm taking the here and now and telling you that the environment is going to change your stats. Okay, you have all these stats about, oh, nobody's repeated this and nobody's repeated that, and there's going to be regression here, there's going to be regression there. Something's got to happen for the first time sometime. So what I'm trying to do with the environmental drafting is trying to draw your attention to things that if they haven't changed, then they're going to stay the same, right? Pretty much. Now, is the defense going to get wind of this stuff and make adjustments? Sure. But a player like, let's say, Lamar Jackson, okay, who's doing the things that he's doing, do you really think that anyone's going to stop him? Okay. They might slow him down. They're not going to contain him. So even if he does regress, he's still so far ahead of the field, it's okay to draft him as early as he's being drafted, excuse me. So let's get into the NFC West, and we'll wrap this up with a real quick PPR mock draft. So NFC West, again, we're making this real easy, guys. The Niners, the Cardinals, and Seattle, no change. The only one that survived a purge with the Rams in LA was head coach Sean McVay. I was about to say Shanahan, but he was San Fran. So McVay survived, but lost offensive coordinator, lost defensive coordinator, lost special teams coach. Kevin O'Donnell is the OC. So we're going to see – he's the OC, so we're going to see. But Kevin O'Donnell is going to be the new OC with the Rams. Now, don't get that twisted, because McVay loves to call plays and he loves to have his hand in the cookie jar when it comes to the offense. Last year, they had Cooper Kupp up in, I think it was the top 10 for wide receiver. Just check this real quick. Yeah, Cooper Kupp finished fourth overall in fantasy production for standard scoring league at wide receiver. Now, here's the thing. The year before that, it was Robert Woods. So Brandon Cooks is gone. Pick one or the other. Okay, you're really not going to lose out on either one. Kupp is the guy who is pretty much the go-to. You're going to get good volume out of Robert Woods. So I don't see a bad pick between the two. What I do see is them trying to use Cam Akers a lot more. So I like the Cam Akers pick. You guys know that I projected Cam Akers to be Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. So if you guys can tweet him out, hit him up, check me out, and I sent him a message. So waiting to hear back from them. So Cam, if you're out there, I believe in you, buddy. So things that we need to look for. Miami, these are teams with a new head coach and offensive coordinator. Miami, Cleveland, the Giants, Washington, and the Panthers. Now, none of these teams have more than 7 wins. The Browns, ironically, were the best one of this group at 6-10. Washington finished bottom of the pack at 3-13, followed by the Giants at 4-12, and then the Panthers and Miami both at 5-11. That's why your head coach and your offensive coordinator are gone, along with the defensive coordinator. So every single one of these teams that I just named lost their OC, their head coach, and their DC. Okay. Now, these are teams who only lost their offensive coordinator. The Jags, the Titans, Denver, Philly, the Bears, the Vikes, and the Rams. Now, the Vikes and the Rams also lost their DC, but the Rams were 9-7, the Vikes were 10-6, the Bears were 8-8, Philly and the Titans were 9-7, Denver was 7-9, and then the Jags were 6-10. Okay. Now, Dallas kept their OC and changed everybody else. Now, how's McCarthy and Kellen Moore going to mesh? We'll see that. Now, here's the question for Washington is, do they have a leg up because the OC and the head coach are familiar already? Okay. If you want to see, I want you to take this information that I just gave you about all the coaching changes. I want you to go back and I want you to watch my breakdown with Chet of the risers and the comeback, or the repeaters and the comebacks edition that Chet and I did. And I want you to pay attention to the players there versus the coaching changes. I want you guys to see the environmental changes going on and then make your decision and trust your gut if you have a gut feeling about certain players. So here's what we're going to do now. We can't have a mock draft Monday without having a mock draft. So with that said, let's get into it. And we're going to do a PPR format. So let's get this up here real quick. Here we go, guys. As always, you guys know I love Fantasy Pros. If you don't follow them already, that's where I also get, some of my information from. Love the Fantasy Pros. Love all the things that they do for us as fantasy players, fantasy owners. This mock draft configuration, I absolutely love. There's a lot of customization on it. So let's go down here. You see that we have, of course, the 2020 season, and we have it in PPR format, not standard this time. So you're going to see wide receivers go off the board a lot sooner than we normally would, okay? We have 12th, and let's draft today from, let's pick the 9th position, and let's see how we fare here in PPR, okay? We're going to switch this to running back, wide receiver. This is your flex. You're going to go 1 here. We're going to reduce the wide receivers to 2. 6 bench spots, giving us 15 rounds. Of course, we're not having any time on it. And let's start. As we're loading up the draft, I want to remind you guys, sponsor the show. Sponsor my draft, actually. Zia of Lafayette. And we're doing 2 sponsors today. We're doing Zia of Lafayette down on Doucette Road, right behind the Grand Theater on Johnson Street. If you're in Lafayette, Louisiana, check them out. Tell them the Dean sent you. Say hi to Tucker and Heath and all the guys down there. They would love to see you. They have amazing food and wonderful family deals still going on. They also still doing curbside. They're still doing delivery and in person. If you guys want to come chill out in the dining room, come see us and see what they got, what they have to offer down there. You can find them at on Doucette Road, as I said, right behind the Grand Theater in Lafayette, Louisiana. Also, new sponsor of the show with a very sweet deal for you guys. This is Keller's Bakery of Youngsville. You can find them at 627 Lafayette Street, located on the Youngsville Highway. Look, check out the meringue pies. The chocolate, the coconut, and the lemon are absolutely phenomenal. Now, here's the sweet deal that we have for you guys. If you go into Keller's Bakery and you tell them that the Dean sent you, you get 2 free cookies. Look, their cookies are amazing. They've got M&M. Yeah, that's right. I said M&M cookies. They got the chocolate chip cookies. They're phenomenal. Plethora of others. Go down and check them out. You can find them on Facebook. They do take through instant messaging. They take delivery orders through instant messaging on Facebook. Find them in Keller's Bakery of Youngsville. You can also call them at 337-856-4449. Tell them the Dean sent you and get you a couple of cookies. And while you're down there, pick up a dozen donuts for me, okay? Appreciate it, guys. Show them some love. And don't forget my boy C-Zone that opened up the episode here today. So here's a very interesting board that has fallen to me, okay? Now, we see Davante Adams and Mike Thomas, and then we see Lamar Jackson. Now, you look, this right here, this is going to happen in some of your home leagues, okay? Somebody's going to really, really reach on Lamar Jackson, okay? We see Dalvin Cook making it all the way down to 7. Michael Thomas being taken early at 5 because of PPR. So what does that leave for me? Now, the top 3 is no surprise. Number 4, you're going to see that happen because it's PPR, okay? So see the cheat sheets. Let's hide the drafted players because we're not going to get them anyway. So here's what I'm thinking is there's a lot of depth at wide receiver, okay? You see how deep this wide receiving core is. And I'm on the short term being in the back half of the first round. So being back half of the first round and a PPR, you guys know that this guy is going to get a lot of work, okay? So let's take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And we see Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake. We see D-Hop gone. Let's check out who else left. And as I said, KC is one of those teams that didn't have any kind of turnover as far as coaching go. So the coaching pretty much is going to stay the same. Now, we see Kenyon Drake's gone, Tyreek Hill, D-Hop, Leonard Fournette in PPR. Look, I'm not really convinced, especially, like I said, with Chris Thompson coming in and Jay Gruden being the OC, you know he's going to lean on him. Austin Eckler, I love the combo of Drake and Eckler there. That's a really good combination, okay? So let's get this done. And we're going to see Julio fell down to us. So we're going to go Julio and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I was able to get Julio on the back end, which is what I was hoping for. Now, if you miss out on Julio, you can get Calvin Ridley, who could put up wide receiver 1 numbers as a wide receiver 2 later in your draft, okay? Now, I'm going to look at this draft board. Let's see who left. We see a lot of wide receivers gone. I like the Allen Robinson, Kenny Galladay. I'm surprised to see Josh Jacobs fall as far as he did. I think that he's going to get a lot more work. I think that if they could go back, like I said, the Joe Mixon, I would have taken Josh Jacobs above that and been able to take somebody else later on. So I think if you leave Joe Mixon alone and you take Josh Jacobs, somebody's going to take Mixon and somebody better and more productive is going to be able to fall to you, okay? We see Kittle, Kelsey, and Ertz. Now, I don't like the Ertz pick because the only reason that Ertz is going to get any work is when they have absolutely decimated wide receiver core. Then you also have Dallas Goedert, who is still in there to take some shots away from him, okay? Let's go down here, and I'm big on this guy. Let's take David Johnson. I think he's still going to get a lot of work in the passing game. Short turn. Now, we see it here in the 4th round. You see that Calvin Ridley is still available. So if I didn't have Julio Jones already, okay, I could have taken one of the other running backs, and I still could have gotten a good wide receiver. But PPR format, Julio Jones is your better bet because he's going to get a lot of volume. He gets a touchdown here and there. It's just icing on the cake for you guys. So let's see who our next wide receiver is. It's Calvin Ridley. I'm not going to have 2 wide receivers on the same team here. Now, I'm going to take and see, this is where you got to make decisions, guys. Because here's the thing. I could take A.J. Brown, hoping that he's going to be more involved in the passing game. But it is Tennessee. They're a run-first defense. Tyler Lockett, I believe, is going to fall off. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take DJ Shark because I'm not big on Allen. I'll take DJ Shark because he's basically it when it comes there. And I'll lose out on Terry McLaurin. I was hoping he was going to fall, but he didn't. Now, let's see. We have up here. Now, here's the thing. David Montgomery is falling this far in the draft simply because it's a PPR format, okay? If it were not PPR, he would not be falling that far, okay? And you see how many wide receivers have gone, okay? Usually, this is all full of running backs, but there's a lot more of a balance when you have a PPR format, okay? Now, let's see who we have for wide receiver here. Now, I'll go ahead and I'll take AJ because, as I said, AJ is going to get a lot of work if Joe Burrow is expected to have any kind of success, okay? Let's check out our draft board real quick. Now, I don't know what's going on here with this pick of defensive tackle tight end free agent. I have no idea. Computer just lost its mind right there. Now, you do see Dak, Russell, Deshaun, and Kyler all off the board here in the 6th. You're going to see usually we see these guys go in the 5th. So because it's PPR, they're going to fall a little more to you. So you don't have to reach as far on that. So let's see. We have at wide receiver. Now, I like Deontay Johnson here just because we've seen Big Ben be able to support multiple high-end wide receivers before he did it with AB and Juju. Now he can do it with Juju and Deontay. Now, let's see what we have on our draft board. We have CEH, we got Julio, we got David, we got DJ, we got DJ Shark, David Montgomery, AJ Green, Deontay Johnson. So we've got four wide receivers, 3 running backs. Let's check out who we have left at tight end. Okay, Evan Ingram. There's a lot of targets to go around. Plus, he's got the injury concern. Austin Hooper, look, they kept David Njoku. He walked back his request for a trade. Mike Gesicki, I like. So let's go ahead and we'll take Gesicki. Now, I also want to check out, yes, we have Jalen Reagor still available now. Jalen Reagor, look, there's a lot of wide receiving holes to fill in Philly. And I think that Jalen Reagor can fit the bill. They got a lot of trust in this kid. And we look at our draft board and we see down here in the 10th round, guys, you can wait and get a Matthew Stafford quarterback. Okay. And we see Breeze go off the board here as well. Unfortunately, we missed out on Alexander Madison. You guys know how much I love him. But I am going to go and I am going to pick up A.J. Dillon. This guy, like I said before, is just a beast of a man. Look for him to do really special things in Green Bay, especially if Aaron Jones goes down, okay? And they're going to want to see what they have, so he's going to be a really good option. If he blows up a game or two, he could be really good draft trade bait for you. You could get somebody else to fill a hole in your roster. Let's see what we have here. So we've got, check out our roster, guys. So we've got running backs in. We've got 2 spots left on our bench. And remember, you don't have to worry about a kicker or a defense until later. And we are in the 12th round. So I can go one more, and let's see who we have available. And guys, this is just like the NFL draft where you're picking the best guy on the board, not necessarily the position that you need, but the best player on the board. And we see Alshon Jeffries down there with the injury icon next to him. Now, all that means is that our pick, Jalen Reagor, is even that much more valuable. Now, here's a pick that I like here. Paris Campbell. I like Paris Campbell because we've already seen T.Y. Hilton. We lost it on T.Y. pick, but T.Y. Hilton already has issues with his hamstring. So he's had soft tissue issues before, and he's having them yet again. So we're here in the 13th. Let's go ahead and we'll pick up the Bills. The Bills D. I like the Bills D just because of the division and the fact that, hey, now look, we see Antonio Brown, my mystery pick, off the board, and you're going to see him climbing up a little bit. So, free agent pickup here, Antonio Brown, going in the 13th round. Apparently, someone's listening to me. We see the Bills gone, and I was hoping to leave Antonio until my last pick per usual. Let's look at kicker. And I'll go ahead and I'll take Justin Tucker. You guys know I love some Zane Gonzalez, but I'll take Justin Tucker just because you know Baltimore's going to be scoring. So we'll see that. Now, your last pick of the draft, I like to make it as a throwaway pick. A guy who you can pick and, you know, if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But you went ahead and you rolled the dice with him. Now, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Carlos Hyde. And this is actually not really a throwaway pick by definition, just because he's a really good handcuff for those guys who have Chris Carson. So if Chris Carson gets injured, I mean, this guy coming off hip injury, you can see that can be a really valuable pick. So take a look at this list. Tell me what you think. Down at the bottom, subscribe, like, and share for me, guys. That's all the time we got today. Hope you had fun on Mock Draft Monday talking environmental drafting. Something new coming to the fantasy world, only here on Fantasy Football Academy 2020. And as always, I've been the Dean. You guys have been great. Take care of yourself. Remember to mask up if you're going out. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.